There is a quiet experience that many deep thinkers share but rarely talk about openly. It is the feeling of being misunderstood, even when they try to explain themselves clearly. Conversations happen, words are exchanged, people nod and respond, yet something still feels slightly incomplete. Part 67 explores the psychology behind why deep thinkers often feel misunderstood and why this experience appears more frequently in reflective and analytical individuals. Deep thinkers process information differently than most people. When they observe situations, their mind naturally explores multiple layers at once. They think about meaning, motivation, patterns, emotions, and long-term consequences all at the same time. While others may focus on the immediate surface of an interaction, the deep thinker is often examining everything beneath it. Because of this difference in mental processing, translating thoughts into simple language can sometimes feel difficult. Many deep thinkers have complex internal dialogues that rarely appear fully in conversation. Their mind connects ideas quickly, forming networks of thoughts that expand in several directions at once. When they attempt to explain these ideas verbally, they must simplify them so others can follow the conversation. But in the process of simplifying, the original depth of the thought may become reduced. The explanation becomes shorter and more manageable, yet it no longer represents the full complexity of the idea that existed in their mind. This creates a subtle frustration. The person listening believes they understand the message, but the deep thinker feels that the most important part of the idea was never fully expressed. Part 67 also explores the difference between surface communication and reflective communication. Many everyday conversations are designed to move quickly and maintain social comfort. People exchange ideas efficiently without spending long periods analyzing them. For deep thinkers, however, communication often feels more meaningful when ideas are explored slowly and carefully. They prefer discussions where both people examine concepts, emotions, and perspectives in detail. When conversations remain brief or superficial, the deep thinker may feel that an opportunity for understanding has been lost. Another reason deep thinkers feel misunderstood is their tendency to notice patterns that others do not immediately see. They often observe connections between events, behaviors, and outcomes that appear unrelated to most people. When they share these observations, listeners may interpret them as overthinking or unnecessary analysis. The deep thinker may feel that they are simply describing something obvious, while others believe the interpretation is too complicated. This difference in perception can create the impression that the deep thinker's perspective is unusual or difficult to understand. Part 67 also highlights the role of emotional depth. Many deep thinkers experience emotions with strong intensity and awareness. They reflect carefully on their own feelings and the feelings of others. When they describe emotional experiences, they may use detailed explanations that attempt to capture the full complexity of those feelings. However, emotional communication often relies on shared experience rather than detailed description. If the listener has not experienced the same emotional perspective, the explanation may feel abstract or confusing. The deep thinker may feel that the listener understands the words, but not the emotion behind them. Another factor involved in feeling misunderstood is the speed of conversation. Social interactions often move quickly from one topic to another. Deep thinkers usually prefer time to analyze and respond carefully. When conversations move too quickly, they may not have enough time to express their ideas fully. By the time they organize their thoughts, the discussion has already shifted to another subject. Over time, this pattern can make them feel like their deeper perspectives rarely have space to appear in conversation. Part 67 also explores independence of thought. Deep thinkers frequently develop their own interpretations of ideas rather than adopting common opinions automatically. They question assumptions and analyze beliefs carefully before accepting them. While this independence leads to thoughtful conclusions, it can also create distance in conversations where most people share similar viewpoints. When a deep thinker expresses a different interpretation, listeners may perceive it as disagreement rather than curiosity. The deep thinker may simply be exploring possibilities, but others may interpret it as criticism of their perspective. Another important element behind this experience is the richness of the internal world. Deep thinkers often spend significant time reflecting on ideas, questions, and observations. Their mind becomes a place where thoughts evolve gradually over time. Because of this internal activity, they may already have considered multiple perspectives before a conversation even begins. When they speak about an idea, they may be summarizing hours or even days of reflection in just a few sentences. Listeners who are encountering the idea for the first time may need more time to process it. This difference in familiarity with the concept can create temporary misunderstanding. Part 67 also reveals an interesting paradox. Deep thinkers are often very good at understanding others, yet they sometimes feel that others struggle to understand them. Their habit of observation and reflection allows them to interpret emotions, motivations, and patterns in behavior with accuracy. However, the same level of analytical attention may not always be directed toward them in return. While they are trying to understand everyone else, they may feel that few people attempt to explore their perspective with the same curiosity. Another reason deep thinkers feel misunderstood is the way they express ideas. Their thoughts often develop in abstract or conceptual ways. They may talk about patterns, principles, or possibilities rather than concrete examples. Some listeners prefer clear and direct statements, while abstract explanations require imagination and patience to understand. If the listener prefers straightforward communication, they may interpret abstract thinking as confusing, even when the idea itself is meaningful. Part 67 moves toward an important realization. Feeling misunderstood does not mean that communication has failed. It often means that two minds are approaching the same conversation from different perspectives. One mind may prioritize efficiency and clarity, while the other explores depth and complexity. Neither approach is wrong. They simply operate at different levels of analysis. Deep thinkers sometimes feel alone in their reflections because their mind explores ideas more deeply than most everyday conversations allow. But this depth is also their strength. It allows them to see connections, understand emotions, and analyze situations in ways that others may overlook. Over time, many deep thinkers discover that the people who truly understand them are not necessarily those who think the same way, but those who are curious enough to explore ideas together. And in those conversations, the deep thinker finally experiences something rare and powerful: the feeling that their thoughts are not only heard, but truly understood.